3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11.
All right, welcome to Roots of Reality. I'm your host, Ben Baumann, and today I'm going to be talking about the history of existence. So every day when we wake up, we usually take for granted what it means to exist in the first place. After all, we are usually too busy with our day-to-day lives, with work and family and etc., to reflect on how incredible our universe is. And that is totally understandable. However, hopefully this episode can give you the opportunity to reflect on the greatest story ever, which is the billions of years that led to you. Listening to this podcast right now on what is basically a giant rock orbiting the sun in a vast and mysterious universe. So with that, here we go. About 13.8 billion years ago, our universe formed. Why it formed and where our universe came from, nobody knows. But here it is. This uncertainty for many is often scary because as people, we naturally want to know things, and uncertainty is disturbing to us. As a result, for those who are religiously inclined, the logical conclusion is that there must be some sort of creator. Though obviously the personified creators depicted in religious texts created by people for people are unlikely to be the most objective answers to the questions we seek. And then there are those who are anti-religious, who take the stance that there was no creator and that we came from nothing and just exist, often stemming from an animosity towards religion. Ironically, though, both the religious and the anti-religious often stake their claims about what was before our universe on faith-based assumptions. Because in reality, whether you're religious or an atheist, nobody has a clue what was before our universe. Because no one knows. However, it would not be that surprising if the universe came from something, because though we know nothing about what could have been before the Big Bang, everything in our known universe that we can objectively observe came from something. So if this pattern of creation operates outside the universe as well, then it would have to come from something. And then, by definition, that could be considered the creator of the universe, whatever the heck that might be. Again, though, this wouldn't be the personified gods of religious history. However, if the universe was the beginning of everything that exists, then I suppose the creator of the universe would be the Big Bang, or the universe itself. So regardless, just by definition, one could say the universe has a creator, but of course it depends on what you mean by that. Anyhow, here's our universe. It may be the only universe, or one of many, but we have no idea. Next, 13.6 billion years ago, our galaxy forms, which is today just one of an estimated 2 trillion galaxies that exist. Then, our sun formed 4.6 billion years ago, which is just one of 200 billion trillion stars in the universe. And after that, our planet Earth formed 4.5 billion years ago and is just one of countless potentially habitable planets in our universe. Later then, about 3.7 billion years ago, life formed on Earth. However, in our planet's history, over 99% of life has gone extinct. Thus, today we are one of a lucky around 8.7 million different species of life that have a nucleus that are still alive, not including life that doesn't have a nucleus like bacteria, for example. From here, though, around 200 million years ago, mammals formed and would thrive after dinosaurs were wiped out by a massive asteroid that hit Earth 65 million years ago. So lucky us, but unlucky for the dinosaurs. And next, around 6 million years ago, the first primates formed. And after that, finally, around 2 million years ago, the first types of humans evolved. And our species, Homo sapiens, first came about around 300,000 years ago. And at that time, other species of humans existed as well, like Neanderthals, Denisovans, Homo florensis, Homo erectus, Homo heidelbergensis, Homo naledi, and Homo luzonensis. Thus, we are only about one of 8 different human species that once existed at the same time. And our species, Homo sapiens, are known to have produced offspring with at least two other species, Neanderthals and Denisovans. In fact, I have both of those in my DNA from DNA testing through the National Geographic's Genographic Project. And our species would go on to be the only human species left. In turn, once our species became the only humans left on the planet, our ancestors would then go on to survive pandemics, climate change, and wars for hundreds of thousands of years. Just for your parents, who are two of nearly 8 billion people, to just so happen to meet and produce you, which would lead to 1 out of a million sperm cells to fertilize an egg, causing your creation. Thus, once you were born, if you think about the 13.8 billion years of history that led to you, it's like winning the lottery a billion times in a row, because you were a result of all of this. And that's pretty freaking amazing when you think about it. In turn, though, when people wonder, what the meaning of life is, which was asked to me recently on Instagram by the Russian Literature Society, who was framing the question around the book description and the dilemma faced by the author of a book called On the Meaning of Life by Will Durant, who was inspired to write this book based on an encounter with a suicidal stranger who asked for a reason not to commit suicide. And so to answer that question regarding life and its meaning, based on the questions posed to Durant at that time, I think we first need to make clear that the situation matters when it comes to such a question. Obviously, when it comes to life and its meaning on the most basic fundamental level, it is to live, since that is what we are literally born to do. However, this doesn't take into account an individual's personal circumstances. For example, if someone is elderly and is suffering horribly from a disease that is not curable, and there is no medication that can mitigate the unbearable pain they are experiencing, or perhaps if someone has dementia and is no longer consciously there, then suicide isn't a shocking choice, which is why assisted suicide is available in parts of the world and why suffering pets are often put down. After all, who wants to perpetually suffer hopelessly, and who wants to exist physically but not mentally? However, though, if a person is not in a situation like that, but is feeling hopeless in life and is suicidal, then they should seek medical help immediately and may need to be prescribed medication like antidepressants, because there's a difference between being mentally ill and needing urgent help versus just asking a question philosophically. And by the way, on a side note, antidepressants were invented after philosopher Will Durant's book in the 1950s, while Durant's book was written in the 1930s. So it's hard to know based on just reading the book's description what the exact circumstances were of the person who was suicidal or just asking this question. And I'm unsure what could have been done for someone who was mentally ill in the 1930s, given the lack of scientific knowledge at the time regarding things like depression. Anyway, when it comes to why we should live from a philosophical standpoint, and what is the point of life, beyond the fact that we were just born to live, I think what is most important is just having perspective. First off, we need to recognize nobody knows what it's like to be you, and only you can, of course, decide how to live your life. However, I do think it is important for anyone to take a step back from their problems and put things in perspective, because all of us in our lives will face problems, a never-ending stream of problems, in fact, which will always be there to throw our lives into utter chaos. It's a shared human experience we all go through. What fun, right? But in many ways, life is a game of just overcoming one problem and waiting for the next one to hit you. And that's something that we all go through no matter who you are and where you're from. And so you really shouldn't take life that seriously, because life is crazy and it's strange, but it can also be pretty amazing. So sure, you can feel like at some point in your life that you're so fed up with the mess that you just don't know what to do with yourself. But that mess doesn't define your life. How you live despite that mess is what does. Because what really matters is finding happiness through our accomplishments and making memories with family and friends. And in many ways, ironically, problems in life and tragedies and death is what motivates us to live in the first place and do things, because those things are reminders of how precious life is and how it can disappear in an instant. It would be hard, obviously, to find purpose without knowing that things eventually go away and change, because death gives us meaning, ironically. And so those moments of happiness are always worth more than the problems and tragedies that occur in our lives, and are the moments that we will reflect on of life as life goes on, as the greatest things that ever happened to us. So in many ways, yes, we are born to live, but we live for these little moments of happiness so that we can collect memories that we can reflect on until scientifically our time comes to an end when we die, and the energy that makes up us forever becomes part of the cosmos and whatever is or isn't beyond that, given that, of course, energy is neither created nor destroyed. And we are simply just energy flowing through matter in a universe that we don't understand much about. And by the way, this universe doesn't owe you anything either. Because being born into this world is a limited opportunity, not a right. Just think of all the people that could have been born if, your parents had met someone else, or their parents or your ancestors had met someone else. So it may not be perfect, but it's not supposed to be either. Though in our modern social media-driven world, it may be tempting to aspire to be and compare our lives to the rich and famous, which through smoke and mirrors appears like the perfect life. In reality, being rich and famous doesn't really mean much, because happiness in life comes from you, ultimately, and how you choose to react to the world around you and the perspective that you carry in your life. The rich and famous may obviously have different problems than those who are not, but being unsatisfied with life and dealing with tragedies is not a stranger to them either. So don't let society pressure you into being something you're not for some superficial life that doesn't matter at the end of the day. Because all that matters is how you choose to live, because only you can determine what equates to a successful life, because it's only your life to live. So with that, I've covered many topics at this point in the podcast and interviewed many people who have done lots of interesting things. But the main underlying message in every episode is that history from the formation of the universe to the present led to you and has given you an opportunity to exist. So you can do whatever you want with that, but hopefully, by keeping some perspective in mind, you will embrace the roots of your reality and do the best you can to be the best person you can be. And if you ever need a reminder of this, just go outside at night and look at the stars in that night sky, because that represents the billions of years that led to you. So make the most of it.